Most people aren't losing because they're weak. They're losing because they're thinking on autopilot. They react instead of analyzing. They assume instead of questioning. This audiobook will teach you how to slow down your thinking, sharpen your judgment, and outsmart situations that used to control you. Not with motivation, with precision. If you're tired of making emotional decisions, falling into the same traps, and being one step behind life, this is your wake-up call. Train your brain, or stay predictable. Chapter 1. Stop thinking fast and start thinking clearly. Fast thinking feels powerful. It feels sharp. It feels intelligent. But most of the time, fast thinking is careless thinking. That's the truth no one tells you. Speed feels productive, but speed without clarity is dangerous. Say that again. Speed without clarity is dangerous. Most of the biggest mistakes in your life were not made because you lacked intelligence. They were made because you moved too fast. You spoke too quickly. You decided under pressure. You reacted before you understood. You thought speed meant strength. It doesn't. Discipline is strength. That's the key. You have been trained to believe that instant responses equal confidence, that reply immediately makes you look smart, deciding quickly makes you look strong. But that belief is costing you relationships, opportunities, and respect, because reacting is not thinking. Reacting is an emotional reflex, and emotional reflex has no strategy. Think about it. How many times have you sent a message immediately and regretted it later? How many times have you answered in anger and wished you could take it back? How many times have you agreed to something under pressure only to realize later it was the wrong decision? That wasn't bad luck. That was speed without clarity. And speed without clarity is dangerous. Here's the hard truth. Most people don't think. They react. They don't evaluate. They respond. They don't observe. They rush. And then they live with the consequences they never took the time to consider. You have a choice. That's the key. Clear thinking requires pause. And pause requires discipline, not intelligence. Discipline. It's not about being smart. It's about being controlled. It's not about speed. It's about clarity. Urgency is a liar. Everything feels urgent when emotions are involved. Every message feels like it must be answered now. Every decision feels like it can't wait. Every argument feels like it must be defended immediately. But urgency is not important. Say it again. Urgency is not important. The disciplined thinker separates the two. The undisciplined thinker confuses them. You do not owe anyone an instant response. You don't need their permission to pause. You don't need their permission to think. You don't need their permission to delay a decision. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. Speed without clarity is dangerous. The world rewards reaction, notifications, messages, deadlines, pressure. Everything is designed to pull you into fast thinking. Because when you think fast, you think shallow. And when you think shallowly, you are easier to control. That's not accidental. But you have a choice. The strongest people are not the fastest responders. They are the clearest thinkers. They observe first. They listen longer. They let emotions settle. They refuse to decide while overwhelmed. That is not fear. That is discipline. Here is the rule you must adopt starting today. Never decide while emotional. Never reply while heated. Never commit while pressured. Pause. Observe. Breathe. Think. This pause is not long. It might be 10 seconds. It might be an hour. It might be a day. But that pause creates space. And space creates clarity. And clarity creates power. Most people fear the pause because they confuse it with hesitation. But hesitation is doubtful. Pause is control. That's the key. Think of the time speed betrayed you. The argument escalated because you replied instantly. The opportunity you ruined because you spoke without thinking. The regret that followed because you wanted to look decisive. That wasn't strength. That was undisciplined thinking. Speed without clarity is dangerous. You must retrain your mind. When something demands an immediate response, tell yourself, this phrase. I am allowed to think. Say it again. I am allowed to think. That simple sentence will save you from years of regret. When a message triggers you, don't respond. Read it again later. When someone pressures you, don't answer. Ask for time. When emotions rise, don't speak. Step back. You are not avoiding it. You are choosing discipline over impulse. It's not about fear. It's about clarity. It's not about weakness. It's about discipline. It's not about delay. It's about control. Clear thinking is a skill, and like any skill, it must be practiced. Start small. Delay your replies by 5 minutes, then 10, then an hour. Watch how much calmer your decisions become. Watch how much fewer regrets you carry. Watch how people begin to take you more seriously. People respect those who are measured. People trust those who are calm. People follow those who think clearly under pressure. That doesn't come from speed. It comes from discipline. Speed without clarity is dangerous. You must retrain your mind. When something demands an immediate response, tell yourself this phrase. I am allowed to think. Say it again. I am allowed to think. That simple sentence will save you from years of regret. When a message triggers you, don't respond. Read it again later. When someone pressures you, don't answer. Ask for time. When emotions rise, don't speak. Step back. You are not avoiding it. You are choosing discipline over impulse. It's not about fear. It's about clarity. It's not about weakness. It's about discipline. It's not about delay. It's about control. Clear thinking is a skill, and like any skill, it must be practiced. Start small. Delay your replies by 5 minutes, then 10, then an hour. Watch how much calmer your decisions become. Watch how much fewer regrets you carry. Watch how people begin to take you more seriously. People respect those who are measured. People trust those who are calm. People follow those who think clearly under pressure. That doesn't come from speed. It comes from discipline. Speed without clarity is dangerous. You must retrain your mind. When something demands an immediate response, tell yourself this phrase. I am allowed to think. Say it again. I am allowed to think. That simple sentence will save you from years of regret. When a message triggers you, don't respond. Read it again later. When someone pressures you, don't answer. Ask for time. When emotions rise, don't speak. Step back. You are not avoiding it. You are choosing discipline over impulse. It's not about fear. It's about clarity. It's not about weakness. It's about discipline. It's not about delay. It's about control. Clear thinking is a skill, and like any skill, it must be practiced. Start small. Delay your replies by 5 minutes, then 10, then an hour. Watch how much calmer your decisions become. Watch how much fewer regrets you carry. Watch how people begin to take you more seriously. People respect those who are measured. People trust those who are calm. People follow those who think clearly under pressure. That doesn't come from speed. It comes from discipline. Speed without clarity is dangerous. You must retrain your mind. When something demands an immediate response, tell yourself this phrase. I am allowed to think. Say it again. I am allowed to think. That simple sentence will save you from years of regret. When a message triggers you, don't respond. Chapter 2. Question everything you've been taught to assume. Most people think they are free thinkers. They are not. They are assumption followers. Their lives are shaped not by facts, but by beliefs they never chose. Beliefs they inherited, beliefs they absorb, beliefs they obey without question. And those beliefs quietly run through their decisions. Assumptions are invisible cages. You don't see them, you don't feel them, but they limit how far you go, what you attempt, and what you believe is possible. That's the key. An assumption is simply a thought you never challenged, a belief you accepted because it was repeated, something that felt normal, so you never tested it. Most people don't realize this, but what feels normal is often what is holding you back. Look at your life. Look at your limits. Look at the stories you tell yourself about success, money, intelligence, confidence, and power. Ask yourself one honest question. Did I verify this? Or did I inherit it? Most beliefs were not discovered. They were downloaded. You were told what success looks like. You were told who was smart. You were told how confident people behave. You were told what is realistic. And because those ideas came early, they lodged deep. You stopped questioning them. And when you stop questioning, you stop growing. Assumptions are invisible cages. Think about success. Many people assume success has a certain look, a certain accent, a certain background, a certain personality. If you don't match that image, your mind quietly tells you not to try. Not because it's impossible, but because the assumption says it's not for you. That assumption controls you. Think about intelligence. Some people believe intelligence means speaking fast, using big words, talking a lot. So if they are calm, quiet, or slow to respond, they assume they are less capable. That belief limits their confidence, not reality. The assumption does. Think about confidence. Many believe confidence means being loud, bold, dominant. So if you are reserved, thoughtful, or observant, you assume something is missing. You try to imitate instead of mastering your natural strength. Again, an assumption, quietly steering your behavior. Critical thinkers do not accept what feels normal. They question it. They ask, why? They ask, who benefits? They ask if it's true. They ask if it applies to them. And that questioning breaks the cage. Most people fear questioning because it threatens comfort. It challenges identity. It creates temporary uncertainty. But uncertainty is better than limitation. That's the key. Here is the discipline you must build. Every time you feel stuck, ask yourself this question. What assumption am I obeying right now? Say it again. What assumption am I obeying right now? Is it an assumption about age? About timing? About money? About background? About your ability? About what others will think? Assumptions are invisible cages. You don't need their permission to question what you were taught. You don't need approval to think differently. You don't need validation to challenge beliefs that feel familiar but no longer serve you. Most people wait for evidence before they question. That's backward. Questioning is how you find evidence. It's not about rebellion. It's about accuracy. It's not about arrogance. It's about discipline. It's not about rejecting everything. It's about examining everything. Here's a practical exercise. Pick one belief you hold strongly, something you say as if it's a fact. For example, people like me don't succeed, or I'm just not that type of person, or it's too late for me. Write it down. Then ask 3 questions. Who taught me this? What proof do I actually have? What would change if this belief was wrong? Those questions weaken the cage, and once weakened, it can be broken. The mind prefers familiar beliefs, even if they are false, because familiarity feels safe. But safe does not equal correct, and correct thinking is what builds power. Assumptions simplify the world, but they also distort it. They cause you to overlook opportunities. They cause you to misjudge people. They cause you to underestimate yourself. Assumptions are invisible cages. The disciplined thinker replaces assumptions with questions. Instead of saying, that's just how it is, they say, is that actually true? Instead of saying, that's not for me, they say, why not me? Instead of saying, I can't, they say, based on what? This is not positive thinking. This is accurate thinking. It's not about being optimistic. It's about removing mental distortions. Most limits dissolve once questioned. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Some assumptions are comforting lies. Letting go of them means taking responsibility. If the belief is false, then the excuse is gone. That's why people protect their assumptions. They protect comfort over freedom. Freedom begins when you challenge the stories you've been living inside, when you realize many of them were never yours. They were handed to you, passed to you, normalized for you. Assumptions are invisible cages. You are not required to live inside them. This chapter is about reclaiming your mind, about refusing to let untested beliefs determine your future, about trading blind acceptance for deliberate thinking. Questioning is not weakness. Questioning is discipline. You are learning to think clearly, and clear thinking requires accuracy. Accuracy requires removing assumptions, because assumptions distort perception, and distorted perception leads to bad decisions. You've learned how fast thinking creates danger. You've learned how assumptions quietly control behavior. Now it's time to confront the biggest distorter of all. You questioned what you believe. Now let's confront how emotion lies to you in the moment. Chapter 3. Emotional thinking is the enemy of accuracy. Most people believe their feelings are telling them the truth. They are wrong. Feelings do not reveal reality. They react to perception. And perception, when emotional, is often distorted. Feelings are signals, not instructions. The moment emotion rises, accuracy drops. Logic weakens. Assumptions increase. And mistakes multiply. Anger exaggerates threat. Fear invents danger. Insecurity creates insult where none exists. Excitement hides consequences. Emotion does not care about truth. Emotion cares about survival, validation, and comfort. You can let emotion drive your decisions, or you can use emotion as information and then step back. Most people never step back. They react, they defend, they explain, they attack, and later, they regret. Think about how many problems started with a feeling. A message sent in anger, a reply typed too fast, a reaction fueled by fear, a decision made to protect pride. In the moment, it felt right. Later, it felt foolish. Feelings are signals, not instructions. Here is the danger. Emotional thinking feels urgent. It pressures you to act now. It convinces you that waiting is a weakness, that silence is a loss, that restraint equals defeat. But urgency is often the signal that clarity is missing. Consider disrespect. Many people misread it. Someone doesn't respond quickly. Someone speaks briefly. Someone doesn't acknowledge them the way they expected. Emotion fills in the gaps. They ignored me. They don't value me. They're disrespecting me. No evidence, just emotion. And once the story is believed, the reaction follows. Defensiveness, confrontation, coldness, ego, a relationship damaged by imagination. Fear-based thinking works the same way. The mind predicts negative outcomes. It rehearses disasters. It magnifies risk. It convinces you that not acting is dangerous, even when acting emotionally is what causes damage. Emotion loves to rush you. Logic prefers time. It's not about suppressing emotion. That's a mistake. Suppression creates pressure. Pressure eventually explodes. The goal is detachment, observation, distance. Feelings are signals, not instructions. When emotion rises, your job is not to obey it. Your job is to analyze it. Ask questions instead of reacting. What am I feeling? Why is it intense? What story am I telling myself? What evidence supports it? What evidence contradicts it? This pause restores accuracy. It's not about flaw. It's about discipline. The discipline to delay action until clarity returns. Most people fear detachment because they think it makes them cold or weak. The opposite is true. Detachment is strength. It gives you control. It keeps you from being predictable. It preserves your reputation. It preserves your long-term goals. Look at people who dominate difficult situations. Leaders, negotiators, strategists. They are not emotionless. They are emotionally aware. They feel everything, but they are not ruled by it. Emotion informs them. It does not command them. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need approval to step back. You don't need validation to delay a response. Control is not loud. Control is quiet. Here is a practical rule. Never act at peak emotion. Never respond at the emotional high. That moment is the least accurate version of you. Say it again. Never act at peak emotion. Walk away if needed. Delay the reply. Breathe. Write your response and don't send it. Sleep on the decision. Distance is clarity. Feelings are signals, not instructions. When you detach, patterns become visible. You notice how often emotion lies. You see how fear exaggerates, how anger narrows thinking, how insecurity invents motives. And with practice, you stop trusting feelings as truth. This does not make you weak. It makes you precise. Most people apologize after reacting. Disciplined thinkers prevent the reaction in the first place. That's the difference. You can be someone controlled by emotional weather, or you can be someone who observes the storm without standing in it. One destroys accuracy. The other sharpens it. And understand this. Emotional thinking costs more than arguments. It costs opportunities. It costs credibility. It costs time. And time is something you never get back. Every time you choose detachment over reaction, you upgrade your mind. You train accuracy. You sharpen judgment. You stop confusing feelings with facts. Feelings are signals, not instructions. This chapter is not asking you to feel less. It's asking you to think better, to separate emotion from action, to stop letting temporary feelings decide permanent outcomes. You mastered questioning assumptions. You learned that beliefs can deceive you. Now you see how emotions distort perception in real time. The next step is learning how to recognize patterns before they repeat. Because once you master emotional accuracy, you can see what others miss. Chapter 4. Learn to see patterns others miss. Most people believe their problems are unique. They are not. Life repeats itself. The people change, the locations change, the details change, but the patterns stay the same. Patterns reveal power. If you keep failing in the same area, it is not bad luck. It is a pattern you refuse to study. If relationships end the same way, it is not coincidence. It is a behavior loop. If money comes in and disappears again and again, it is not the economy. It is a cycle. You can keep reacting to events as if they are new, or you can step back and ask why the same outcomes keep showing up in different forms. Smart people don't obsess over single events. They study repetition. Most situations you face today have already happened before. Only the faces changed. Only the timing changed. Only the setting changed. But the structure stayed the same. Until you recognize that structure, you will repeat the lesson. Look at relationships. Same arguments, same disappointments, same emotional triggers. Different person, same ending. People love to blame the other person. They rarely examine the pattern they bring with them. It's not about flaw. It's about discipline. The discipline to observe yourself honestly. Look at money. Some people earn more and still struggle. Others earn less and stay stable. The difference is not income. It's patterns, spending habits, emotional decisions, short-term thinking. Until the pattern changes, the result stays the same. Look at work environments, office politics, power dynamics, loyalty tests, ego battle. Many people complain about toxic workplaces without noticing they keep choosing the same type of environment or reacting the same way inside it. Here is why most people miss patterns. Emotion, ego, excuses. Emotion wants to feel justified. Ego wants to feel innocent. Excuses protect comfort. But patterns demand responsibility, and responsibility scares people. You don't need their permission to look deeper. You don't need approval to admit truth. And you don't need validation to change direction. Smart observers don't listen to explanations. They study outcomes. Excuses are endless. Results are honest. If someone says they are hardworking but never advances, the pattern matters more than their words. If someone claims they are misunderstood but are always surrounded by conflict, the pattern matters more than their story. Start asking better questions. What keeps repeating? What decision do I keep making? What behavior shows up before every failure? What warning signs did I ignore every time? This is not about blaming yourself. It's about reclaiming control. Once you see the pattern, you can interrupt it. Until then, you are a passenger. Here is a simple discipline. After every major outcome, pause. Ask what led here. Not who to blame, not how unfair it was. Ask what actions, reactions, and choices created this result. Either stay focused on moments or learn from patterns. One keeps you emotional, the other makes you strategic. Notice this. Powerful people rarely overreact. They've seen it before. They recognize early signs. They don't panic because nothing surprises them anymore. That comes from pattern recognition. Patterns reveal power. When you learn to spot patterns, you stop being confused by chaos. You stop being manipulated by emotion. You stop repeating mistakes disguised as new opportunity. This skill sharpens everything. Decision-making, relationships, money, timing, awareness. And here's the truth. Once you see a pattern, you can't unsee it. And once you can't unsee it, excuses lose power over you. That's the key. Most people live in reaction mode because they never zoom out. They live inside moments instead of studying systems. You don't need more motivation. You need more awareness. It's not about flaw. It's about discipline. The discipline to observe yourself before reacting. This chapter trained your eyes, but clear vision still needs filtering because not everything you see matters. Not every signal deserves attention. Not every voice deserves space. You learn to see patterns others miss. Now you must learn to separate what is meaningful from what is just noise.
Chapter 5. Separate noise from information. Most people are exhausted. Not because life is hard, but because their minds are crowded. Too many voices, too many opinions, too much nonsense is treated as important. Not everything deserves your mental energy. That's the first truth you must accept. Information without filtration is mental pollution. When everything gets your attention, nothing gets your focus. And when your focus is weak, your decisions are weak. You have a choice. You can allow the world to constantly pull at your mind, or you can become ruthless about what you allow in. Look around. Social media, news cycles, trends, gossip, emotional headlines. Everyone is screaming for attention. Everyone is trying to hijack your thoughts. Most of it adds nothing to your life, but it drains your clarity. Information without filtration is mental pollution. The problem is not access to information. The problem is lack of discipline. People consume everything and think they are staying informed. In reality, they are staying distracted. Think about how often you react to things that don't affect your life at all. Online arguments, viral outrage, rumors, opinions from people who don't know you and won't be there when decisions must be lived with. You don't need their permission to ignore noise. Most people mistake reaction for intelligence. They think reacting quickly makes them sharp. It doesn't. It makes them manipulated. News is designed to trigger emotion. Social media is designed to hijack attention. Gossip is designed to bond people through negativity. None of these are designed to improve your thinking. It's not about flaw, it's about discipline. The discipline to ask one powerful question before paying attention. Does this change my decisions? If the answer is no, let it go. Information without filtration is mental pollution. Focus is not about concentration alone. It's about exclusion. Powerful thinkers don't know more. They ignore more. Look at people who make progress. They are not aware of every trend. They are not emotionally involved in every debate. They are locked into outcomes. Spend your mental energy reacting or invest it intentionally. Most people react to headlines without reading details. They react to gossip without verifying facts. They react to trends because others are reacting. This is herd thinking. Strong minds filter first. They slow down. They ask what matters. They decide what deserves space in their head. Here is a rule you need to live by. If something does not improve your decisions, income, health, skills, or relationships, limit its access to your attention. This is not ignorance. This is strategy. Information without filtration is mental pollution. When you let noise in, it shapes your mood. Your mood shapes your behavior. Your behavior shapes your outcomes. That's how people lose control without noticing. Think about how many bad days start with consuming the wrong information. Negative news, comparison, online arguments. By the time the day begins, the mind is already hijacked. You don't need their permission to protect your mental space. Smart people treat attention like money. They spend it carefully. Poor thinkers spend it everywhere and wonder why they are mentally broke. It's not about flaw. It's about discipline. Here's another truth. Urgency is often fake. Just because something is loud doesn't mean it's important. Just because people are emotional doesn't mean action is required. Noise is loud. Information is useful. Learn the difference. Information without filtration is mental pollution. Information gives clarity. Noise creates anxiety. Information leads to decisions. Noise leads to reaction. Train yourself to pause before reacting. Ask what this actually changes. Ask if this helps you think better or just feel something. When you clean up what enters your mind, your thinking sharpens automatically. Your emotions stabilize. Your decisions improve. Not because life changed, but because your inputs did. Let the world constantly interrupt your mind, or become selective and intentional. This chapter trained your attention, but attention alone is not enough. You must now upgrade how you decide, because clarity without direction is wasted. You've learned to filter noise. Now you must learn to aim your thinking toward results.
Chapter 6. Think in outcomes, not emotions. Most people don't make decisions. They manage feelings. They wake up every day reacting to pressure, discomfort, fear, and impatience. They choose whatever reduces emotional pain in the moment and then act surprised when the same problems keep repeating. That's not bad luck. That's predictable behavior. Smart decisions are not judged by how they feel in the moment. They're judged by the results they create over time. Emotions are loud. Outcomes are quiet. And because emotions demand immediate relief, they push people into choices that feel good now and cost them later. Short-term comfort creates long-term chaos. Read that again. Short-term comfort creates long-term chaos. That single principle explains most broken finances, ruined relationships, stalled careers, and unstable lives. People quit too early because it feels hard. They confront people aggressively because they feel disrespected. They spend money they don't have because they feel stressed. They speak without thinking because they feel justified. Each time, the feeling is relieved, and each time, a future problem is created. The relief feels good. The consequences arrive quietly. Short-term comfort creates long-term chaos. People who win don't ignore their emotions. They delay their actions. That's an important distinction. They feel everything, but they don't let feelings decide the timing. They create space, and in that space, they regain control. You have a choice. You can act immediately and obey emotion, or you can pause and lead it. Pausing is not a weakness.
Most people believe quick reactions show strength. They don't. They reveal lack of control. Elite thinkers move differently. They think first, then they act. They slow the process when emotions speed it up. They resist urgency when pressure demands reaction. That's how outcomes are protected. Outcome thinking requires distance. Distance from the moment. Distance from the noise. Distance from the emotional storm. You step outside yourself and observe the situation like it belongs to someone else. When you do that, clarity appears. Every action writes a future you must live in. Every reaction creates consequences you cannot escape. So ask yourself the most honest question possible. What future am I building with this choice? If the answer makes you uncomfortable, that discomfort is information. Discomfort doesn't always mean danger. Sometimes it means growth. People who choose outcomes over emotions accept temporary discomfort to avoid permanent damage. They endure now so they can expand later. Choose the relief of the moment and you pay later. Choose the discipline of the moment and you collect later. Short-term comfort creates long-term chaos. Let's say it clearly. Emotional decisions feel powerful. They feel honest. They feel expressive. They feel justified. But expression is not strength. Direction is strength. Control is strength. Discipline is strength. It's not about flaw. It's about discipline. Discipline is choosing the harder response because it leads to the better outcome. Discipline is holding your ground when emotion begs for release. Discipline is delaying gratification when impulse demands relief. When you master this, something shifts. Your life stabilizes. Your mistakes reduce. Your confidence increases. Not because life gets easier, but because your thinking gets cleaner. You stop burning bridges. You stop quitting too soon. You stop sabotaging momentum. You start acting with intention. Train yourself. When emotions spike, do nothing. Not forever, just for a moment. Create space. In that space, ask the question, where does this decision lead? Say it again. Where does this decision lead? Ask it before you speak. Ask it before you spend. Ask it before you react. Ask it before you quit. At first, it will feel uncomfortable. That's normal. You're breaking a habit. Over time, it becomes automatic. And when it does,
You gain a type of control most people never experience. You stop being predictable. You stop being reactive. You stop being easy to manipulate, because emotional people are easy to steer. Disciplined thinkers are not. You don't need their permission to be calm while they're emotional. You don't need validation to choose patience. You don't need approval to think long term. That's maturity. That's power. You've learned to slow down fast thinking. You've learned to question assumptions. You've learned to detach from emotion. You've learned to filter noise. Now you've learned to think about outcomes. And this changes how you move in every situation. But there's one more layer, because sometimes the smartest decision isn't action. Sometimes the smartest decision is restraint. Sometimes the smartest decision is watching. Sometimes the smartest decision is silence. You've learned to think before you act. Now it's time to learn why quiet control beats loud reaction.
Chapter 7. Silence is a strategic advantage. Most people believe power is loud. They believe influence belongs to the person who talks the most, explains the most, reacts the fastest, and dominates the conversation. They are wrong. The loudest person in the room is usually the weakest. The smartest person in the room is often the quietest. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is control. Silence is not confusion. Silence is clarity. Silence is not submission. Silence is dominance. Silence collects intelligence. That sentence alone should change how you move through the world. When you talk too much, you leak information. When you react too quickly, you reveal your hand. When you explain yourself excessively, you give away leverage, and leverage once lost is rarely recovered. You have a choice. You can speak to be noticed, or you can stay silent to understand. Most people fear silence. Silence makes them uncomfortable. It creates tension. It exposes insecurity. So they fill the gap with words. They overshare. They justify themselves. They explain things no one asked about. They defend positions no one attacked. They mistake noise for confidence. That's weakness, disguised as expression. It's not about flaw. It's about discipline. The discipline to listen without interrupting. The discipline to observe without reacting. The discipline to wait when emotion urges you to speak. This is not passive behavior. This is control. When you pause before responding, you gain time. When you gain time, you gain options. When you gain options, you gain power. Silence creates space, and space is where strategy lives. Look closely at how people expose themselves. They talk when they're nervous. They explain when they feel threatened. They overshare when they want approval. They develop intentions when they want validation. Silence avoids all of that. You don't need their permission to stay quiet. You don't need to prove intelligence with words. You don't need to justify your position to people who haven't earned access to your thinking. Silence does not mean you have nothing to say. It means you are choosing when to say it, and timing is everything. Observe before you speak. Listen not only to what is said, but why it is said. Ask yourself silently, what do they want from me right now? What outcome are they aiming for? What emotion is driving this conversation? Silence collects intelligence. In conversations, people often reveal their true motives when they think you are not reacting. In meetings, let others speak first. They will reveal priorities, fears, and insecurities without realizing it. In conflict, let emotions settle. The person who stays calm gains the advantage. In negotiations, let silence do the work. Discomfort pressures the other side into revealing more. Most people cannot tolerate silence. They rush to fill it, and in doing so, they show you everything. Silence applies pressure without effort. Silence also protects you. It keeps your plans private. Your strategy is unclear. Your next move is unpredictable. When everyone knows what you think, they can prepare against you. When no one knows your plan, you control the game. Reveal everything, and you become transparent. Reveal nothing until the moment is right, and you become untouchable.
It's not about flaw.
It's about discipline. Silence is not weakness. Emotional talking is. Reactive people speak to release tension. Disciplined people stay quiet to gain clarity. Silence creates mystery. Mystery creates respect. People respect what they cannot easily read. This is why emotionally reactive individuals are easy to manipulate. They speak from impulse. They respond instantly. They expose their triggers. Calm silence gives nothing away. When someone cannot read you, they hesitate. When they hesitate, you gain control. Silence makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. When you master silence, something else happens. You stop chasing validation. You stop needing the last word. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't matter. You don't need their permission to be composed. Silence eliminates unnecessary battles. Not every opinion deserves engagement. Not every provocation deserves a response. Not every comment deserves your energy. Silence is selective attention, and attention is currency. Where you place your attention determines where your power flows. Every argument drains energy. Every unnecessary explanation weakens authority. Every reactive comment gives access. Silence takes all that back. Silence sharpens your thinking. When your mouth is closed, your mind opens. You hear patterns. You notice inconsistencies. You catch emotional manipulation others miss. Silence collects intelligence. This is how leaders think. This is how strategists move. This is how calm minds stay dangerous. Not loud, not rushed, not reactive, deliberate. Silence also strengthens self-control. When you resist the urge to speak, you train restraint. When you train restraint, you strengthen discipline. When discipline grows, emotional impulses weaken. This carries into every area of life. You speak less impulsively. You react less emotionally. You plan more deliberately, and people notice. They feel it before they understand it. Silence changes how others experience you. They take you more seriously. They choose words carefully around you. They stop assuming access to your thoughts, because a calm presence commands respect. Use silence as a filter. If something deserves a response, give it one. If it doesn't, let it pass. Not everything requires your opinion. Not every conversation deserves participation. Not everyone earns clarity into your thinking. Silence is choosing where your energy goes, and energy is your most valuable asset. Every word you speak either builds leverage or wastes it. Every reaction either strengthens control or weakens it. You have a choice. Speak impulsively and give power away, or stay silent and gain leverage. Silence is not about fear. It's about confidence. Confidence doesn't rush. Confidence doesn't explain. Confidence doesn't compete. Confidence observes. You've learned to pause before reacting. You've learned to think in outcomes. You've learned to filter noise. Silence integrates all of that. It allows emotions to settle. It allows clarity to rise. It allows strategy to form. And when you finally speak, your words carry weight, because silence gives words value. Now you're ready for the final shift, because discipline doesn't just control what you say. It controls how others read you. It controls how predictable you become. And predictability is weakness. The truly disciplined mind is calm, measured, and unreadable. It reacts when it chooses. It speaks when it serves purpose. It stays silent when silence is stronger. This is how you stop being controlled. This is how you stop being manipulated. This is how you become unpredictable. And that's where real power begins.
Chapter 8. Become unpredictable by becoming disciplined. Most people think unpredictability means being wild, being impulsive, doing whatever feels good at the moment. That belief is completely wrong. Emotion does not make you unpredictable. Emotion makes you readable. When you react emotionally, you follow patterns. Anger follows insults. Excitement follows praise. Fear follows pressure. And once people see the pattern, they control you. They know when to provoke you. They know when to flatter you. They know when to rush you. Emotional people are easy to map. Discipline breaks the map. Discipline destroys predictability. Discipline makes you dangerous. You can be emotionally honest and strategically weak, or calm, disciplined, and impossible to read. It's not about flaws. It's about discipline. Look carefully at who gets manipulated most in life. The angry, the impatient, the needy. They are reactive. They leak information constantly, through tone, through body language, through timing, through over-explaining, through defending themselves emotionally. Disciplined people leak nothing. They feel emotion, but they don't obey it. They experience pressure, but they don't react to it. They observe first, then decide. Discipline creates delay. Delay creates space. Space creates advantage. When someone expects an argument and you stay calm, they lose control. When someone expects an explanation and you stay silent, they become uneasy. When someone expects reaction and receives restraint, their strategy collapses. They don't know what you're thinking. That uncertainty is power. Discipline makes you dangerous. You don't need their permission to be calm. You don't need approval to pause. You don't need validation to hold your ground. Most people are predictable because they are emotional on schedule. Insult them and they explode. Pressure them and they fold. Praise them and they overshare. Same reaction every time. Discipline removes the schedule. You respond when you decide, not when they expect. That's the difference between control and captivity. True discipline begins with standards, not goals, not motivation. Standards, rules you follow regardless of mood.
I do not react immediately. I do not argue impulsively. I do not explain myself emotionally. I do not respond while triggered. I do not abandon structure for feelings. These are not preferences. They are rules. When rules replace moods, identity changes. It's not about flaws. It's about discipline. Being disciplined does not mean being passive. It means being precise. You are calm, not weak, quiet, not confused, patient, not hesitant. Calm people intimidate emotional people because emotion cannot control calm. Think back to the times people tried to provoke you. They were not searching for the truth. They were fishing for a reaction. Reaction gives them leverage. Reaction feeds their ego. Reaction gives them control. Discipline denies them all three. When you stop reacting, people reveal themselves. Some become angry. Some become uncomfortable. Some become desperate. And that reaction tells you everything you need to know.
Structure creates results. Discipline makes you dangerous. At this level, you are no longer trying to be impressive. You are trying to be effective. You don't need witnesses to stay consistent. You don't need motivation to obey structure. You don't need excitement to remain disciplined. Structure replaces motivation. This is the final identity shift from reactive human to strategic thinker, from emotional expression to disciplined execution. You now understand how emotion distorts judgment, how noise drains focus, how silence strengthens power, how discipline controls outcomes. This is not about becoming cold. It's about becoming accurate. You still feel. You just don't surrender authority. From this point forward, your calm becomes your signature. Your restraint becomes your warning. Your discipline becomes your weapon. Discipline makes you dangerous, and unpredictability keeps you free. Stay emotional and easy to read, or disciplined and impossible to control. Most people live reactively. They think what they're told to think. They feel what they're triggered to feel. They react before they understand, and then they wonder why life controls them. You don't need to be louder. You don't need to be faster. You need to be sharper. Critical thinking slows reaction, strengthens decisions. Return control to you. From this moment forward, you choose. React or analyze. Assume or question. Repeat patterns or outgrow them. Train your mind, outsmart situations, and never let emotion make decisions your future will pay for. Discipline makes you dangerous, and once discipline becomes identity, no one can move you without your consent. Stay disciplined, stay calm, stay dangerous.